If you are watching this, it is because deep down you know you are bleeding money at this very moment. There is an invisible leak in your finances that no accountant, no chart, and no consultant has been able to find. And I am going to tell you exactly where it is. The leak is your own ego. The most expensive tax you will ever pay in your entire life does not go to the government. It does not go to the IRS, and it does not go to your competitors. Millions of dollars evaporate every day, not because of global crises, but because smart, experienced men simply refuse to look in the mirror and utter three very simple words: I was wrong. They refuse to cut their losses. Or maybe you're funding an endless lawsuit, paying absurd fees, losing sleep at night, not because it makes financial sense, but because you want to destroy the other party out of pure revenge. You want to prove a point. You want to show that you are right. And being right, my friend, is the most expensive sport in the world. Modern society has sold you an extremely dangerous lie. They've told you, ever since you were young, that persistence is always an absolute virtue. They printed cheap motivational quotes telling you to never give up. You consume romanticized biographies of billionaires and convince yourself that if you just endure a little more pain, if you just push this dead project up the mountain for a few more months, the reward will finally come. You confuse blind stubbornness with high-level resilience. But the ancients, the men who built and protected the oldest and most enduring wealth on the face of the earth, understood a much darker and more pragmatic truth. Persistence, when it lacks the absolute backing of cold mathematics, is not resilience. It is pure delusion. Thousands of years ago, long before Wall Street existed, long before stock charts flashed on screens and algorithms calculated risk, human nature had already been mapped with surgical precision. There is a millenary principle recorded in ancient wisdom texts from over 3 millennia ago that says exactly the following: a man who squanders his money motivated by anger or who destroys his assets because of pride should be seen as a fool who worships a stone idol. Think about the brutal depth of that statement. Why a stone idol? Because the exact second you make financial decisions with a wounded ego, you are no longer serving your future. You are no longer protecting your family. You are not building a legacy that will last for generations. You have begun to worship your own image. You are sacrificing your real wealth on the altar of your own vanity. You cling to toxic investments, to partnerships that drain your vital energy, to incompetent employees that you hired yourself just to avoid the psychological discomfort of admitting that you made a terrible choice in the past. This is what I call the ego tax. And believe me, it charges daily compound interest. Every penny you spend trying to protect how others see you is a penny stolen from your true freedom. Money has no feelings. Math does not suffer. A financial spreadsheet does not care if you are sad, if you feel wronged, or if your grown man pride is hurt. Money obeys only those who have the emotional discipline to manage it with cold calculation. The ultimate financial discipline, the final degree of maturity of a man who truly builds and maintains empires, is absolute emotional detachment from his own bad ideas. You need to learn to be the ruthless executioner of your own failures. You need to learn to kill your worst ideas quickly, surgically, in silence, and without an ounce of remorse. If the numbers say it's over, it's over. Swallow your pride, cut the financial bleeding, and survive to fight another day with a clear mind and protected cash flow. Poverty loves the noise of wounded pride. Wealth demands the silence of absolute discipline. In the next few minutes, we are going to conduct a ruthless audit on how you make decisions today. Right now, as you listen to me, there is a dangerous lie operating silently inside your mind. It is an invisible virus. It was implanted in you by modern society, by the culture of overwork, and by gurus who have never built a real empire but love selling stage illusions. This lie is packaged in a short phrase you have heard thousands of times: never give up. They say persistence is the supreme virtue. They sell you the idea that the only abyss between you and absolute success is your ability to endure pain for one more day. You turn on your phone, open social media, and are bombarded by motivational videos. Men screaming into microphones, telling you that you need to work while they sleep, that you need to keep pushing, keep fighting, even when everything around you is crumbling. You read romanticized biographies of billionaires. You memorize the stories of how they failed dozens of times before hitting the mark. And by consuming this, you convince yourself that your current stubbornness is, in fact, the prelude to your great victory. You look at your business that is bleeding money, at your investment portfolio that has been in the red for months, at that toxic partnership that drains your sanity, and you say to your ego in the mirror, "I am a warrior. I just need to push a little harder. If I give up now, I will be a failure." But here is the cold, brutal, and unspoken truth that separates dreaming boys from men who actually hold power. Persistence, when divorced from cold mathematics and ruthless logic, is not a virtue. It is a delusion. It is the perfect recipe for financial and psychological ruin. There is a very fine line, almost invisible to the untrained eye, between being a resilient visionary and being a stubborn fool. The visionary persists because he has done the math. He looked at the data, analyzed the variables, isolated his emotions, and found a mathematical asymmetry of risk and return. He knows why he's suffering, and his suffering has a calculated expiration date. The stubborn fool, on the other hand, persists exclusively because his ego is too fragile to endure the public humiliation of a strategic retreat. He is no longer operating by market logic. He is operating out of fear of judgment. He is terrified of what his wife will think, of what former co-workers will whisper, of what competitors will laugh about behind the scenes. And it is exactly at this point that the trap closes and your wealth begins to melt away. When you refuse to abort a failed mission, you commit the worst strategic mistake a leader can make. You sacrifice your good, healthy, and productive resources to try to save dead ones. You take money from your profitable operations to cover the holes in your bankrupt operation. You steal time from your family to try to fix a partnership that was born rotten. You burn your own oxygen trying to make a corpse breathe. In the ruthless economy of the real world, hope is not a business strategy. Closing your eyes and hoping things improve next quarter is not risk management. It is financial suicide. Society calls you brave for enduring the punishment. But the masters of old money, the strategists who survived crises and collapses throughout the centuries, would call you crazy. They understood that true power is not in never backing down. True power is in recognizing the defeat of a microscopic battle today so you can win the colossal war tomorrow. Retreating is not failing. Retreating is preserving your ammunition. It is reallocating your capital, your time, and your energy to a terrain where the odds are in your favor. Continuing to bang your head against a concrete wall just to prove your head is hard will not bring down the wall. It will only fracture your skull. And while you are standing there, dizzy, bleeding, and blinded by your own pride, the market will run you over without even taking down your license plate. The never give up lie is the siren song that has sunk more ships than any storm. In the next segment, we will delve into the ancestral roots of this behavior and reveal the rigorous law that the ancients used to kill the ego before the ego killed the wealth. To understand how to stop this invisible financial bleeding, we need to completely abandon the shallow advice of modern society and turn our eyes to the wisdom that has survived the test of time. Pay close attention to what I am going to tell you now. The money you handle today may be digital. It may be transferred via apps or invested on glowing screens with real-time charts. But the human nature that earns or loses that money is exactly the same as it was 3,000 years ago. The tools have changed, but the human brain, its flaws, its fears, and its ego have not changed one bit. That is why the most prosperous men in history, those who build fortunes that last for generations, do not seek advice from passing internet trends. They seek immutable principles. And there is a document, a profound code of law, ethics, and raw pragmatism that has been the pillar of wealth preservation for millennia, the Talmud. Do not look at it as a mystical or religious text. Look at it as the oldest and most lethal manual of human survival, emotional control, and asset management that humanity has ever produced. Within the Talmud, there is a specific section known as the Tractate of Shabbat that contains an extremely grave warning for any man who wishes to build and maintain financial power. The passage says the following: "He who tears his garments in anger, or breaks his vessels in anger, or scatters his money motivated by anger or pride, should be in your eyes exactly like an idolater." I want you to freeze your mind on that image, an idolater, someone who bows down and worships a false statue of stone or gold. Why did the ancient sages, men of formidable intellect, use such a harsh, heavy, and condemning word to describe a man who simply makes a hot-headed financial decision? The answer to this question is the master key that unlocks true discipline. They use this word because the exact second you make a business decision based on your wounded pride, you have stopped serving your real goals. You have stopped serving your family's well-being. You have stopped building your legacy. In that exact moment, you built an invisible altar to your own vanity and began to sacrifice your sweat, your time, and your sacred wealth to this false god. When you refuse to sell a stock that is plummeting irreversibly, simply because clicking the sell button means admitting to yourself that your initial analysis was wrong, you are acting like this idolater. Your real money is being burned as a sacrifice to protect your self-image as an infallible investor. When you keep a partner who is sinking the operation, or a toxic employee that you handpicked yourself just to avoid having to admit defeat and say, "I made a terrible hire," you are scattering your money to the wind, motivated by pride. The ego does not want the truth. The ego wants to be right. And in the financial market, trying to prove you are right all the time is the fastest path to absolute bankruptcy. The financial market, the global economy, and business, my friends, are absolutely apathetic predators. They do not feel anger. They do not have pity, and they are not impressed by how hard you work. In fact, the big sharks of the market and the most ruthless competitors in your niche love ego-driven men. They feed on proud entrepreneurs because the proud man is highly predictable. He will always double down in the wrong direction just to save face, and in doing so, he transfers his own wealth into the pockets of those operating with cold calculation. Ancestral wisdom warns you that pride blinds mathematics. When you are dominated by the need to not look like a failure to the people around you, your brain suffers a total cognitive hijacking. You stop looking at the cost spreadsheet, you ignore the red charts, you silence the advice of your most trusted consultants. All that matters becomes the fictional narrative you tell society. You would rather go bankrupt slowly, maintaining the pose of an untouchable, successful entrepreneur, than tactically retreat, take a small public loss, and preserve your capital. This is a sign of weakness disguised as perseverance. The man who masters money is, first and foremost, the man who masters himself. He understands that true strength is not about being unbreakable. True strength is being extremely agile and detached when reality and the numbers demand an immediate change of course. In the next segment, we will take this lens off ancestral theory and put a magnifying glass on your routine today. We are going to conduct an invisible clinical audit of your life. You will discover exactly where your ego is draining your money right this minute and how to stop this bleeding before it is too late. We will now close the pages of ancient texts and open the invisible spreadsheet of your own life. It is time for us to do an audit, but not the kind of audit your accountant does at the end of the fiscal year. We are not going to look at your invoices, your declared taxes, or your official profit margin. We are going to audit your ego. We are going to track exactly where your money is leaking this exact second while you watch me. There is a devastating psychological phenomenon that modern economics calls the sunk cost fallacy. But we, looking through the lens of raw pragmatism, will call it by its real name, the prison of the past. This happens when you keep injecting money, time, sweat, and mental sanity into a project that has already died, solely and exclusively because you already invested heavily in it back then. You look back, see the size of the sacrifice you made, and your ego screams, "We cannot stop now." If we stop, all that time and money will have been in vain. And that is exactly where the poison enters your financial bloodstream. You need to understand an absolute and unbreakable rule of the market. The money you lost yesterday is gone. It no longer exists. It has evaporated. The universe does not have a karmic savings account that will give you back what you lost just because you are suffering and being persistent. The market does not care about your history of sacrifices. The only thing that matters is the mathematics of right now, what you hold in your hands today, and what is the smartest decision to make with that resource from this exact moment onward. But the ego-dominated man cannot see this. He tries to use today's money to buy back yesterday's money. And that is mathematically impossible. Look at your routine right now. Be brutally honest with yourself. Where are you bleeding cash just to prove a point? Maybe it is a branch of your company that has never been profitable. Every month, it drains the energy of your best employees and devours the liquidity of your core business. All your consultants tell you to shut down this division, but you refuse. Why? Because shutting it down means calling your team together, looking them in the eye and saying, I made a mistake. My idea was a strategic failure. Your ego cannot bear the weight of that confession. So, you prefer to pay $5, $10, $50,000 a month to keep an illusion alive. You are paying an outrageously expensive rent to house your own vanity. Or maybe your bleeding comes from your relationships. You have a partner or a high-level employee who is toxic, unproductive, and drives away good business. But you were the one who chose him. You were the one who defended him in the beginning. Firing him today means admitting that your judgment of character failed. It means exposing your vulnerability as a leader. And to avoid this sharp pain to your short-term pride, you accept the chronic pain of a business being destroyed from the inside day after day. Or, even worse, revenge wars. How many brilliant men have I seen burn the wealth they took decades to build, entering into endless litigation, irrational lawsuits, or suicidal price wars against competitors? Not because there was a logical financial gain at the end, but because they wanted to destroy the opponent. They wanted the opponent to kneel. They turned their own bank accounts into weapons to defend their own honor. This is schoolyard boy behavior, not that of a leader building generational wealth. Every dollar you spend defending your self-image before society is a dollar stolen directly from your family's legacy. You are stripping away the financial armor of your children to polish the armor of your own ego. You are trading real, lasting power for the cheap, fleeting approval of people who, deep down, are just waiting for you to stumble so they can laugh behind your back. The invisible bleeding is the most lethal because it does not hurt right away. It disguises itself as honor. It disguises itself as resilience. But numbers do not lie. If you take emotions off the table and look only at the cold math, you will see the size of the black hole your pride is digging. You need to stop trying to prove to the world that you never make mistakes. Invulnerability is the fantasy of the weak. The true master recognizes the mistake, cuts the diseased part of the flesh without hesitation, and survives to dominate tomorrow. In the next and final segment, I will give you the iron rule, the absolute and pragmatic protocol to kill this error today and shield your wealth forever. Money has no feelings. It is the coldest, most neutral, and ruthless entity on the face of the earth. It does not feel pity for your exhaustion. It does not care about your lack of sleep. It ignores your good intentions, and above all, it does not give a damn about your ego. Money has no loyalty to whoever cries the loudest. It has loyalty only to those who respect mathematics. And mathematics is a game of pure logic, where vanity has no seat at the table. Your biggest strategic mistake to date has been fusing your personal identity with your financial results. You built your self-esteem on the premise that you need to be right all the time. You think that if a business decision fails, if an investment turns to dust, if a partnership sinks, the failure is who you are. But that is a childish fallacy. You are not your spreadsheet. You are not your corporate entity. You are the general coordinating the troops. And real generals do not die embracing surrounded battalions just to prove they are brave. They order the retreat, save the remaining soldiers, and prepare the ground for the next ambush. The ultimate financial discipline, the iron rule, that separates men who lose fortunes from those who build centuries-old empires is called absolute emotional detachment. It is the rare and lethal ability to look at something you built with your own sweat, realize that its usefulness is over, and pull the plug without shedding a single tear. The protocol you will adopt from today onward is brutal, but it is the only thing that will guarantee your survival. You will learn to kill your own bad ideas, and you will do it quickly, silently, and with absolutely no remorse. If a business has been draining your cash for months with no real mathematical prospect of a turnaround, cut the line. Kill the operation. If an employee you defended in the past is rotting your company's culture, cut the line. Fire them today. If a toxic asset is eroding your portfolio and you only keep it there in the irrational hope of breaking even, cut the line. Take the loss and reinvest the surviving capital into fertile ground. The market does not need an apology from you. Society does not need to understand your decisions. Your family does not need a trophy of stubbornness. Your family needs a lucid leader with strong cash flow and protected wealth. Remember the warning that has echoed for over 3,000 years in the Tractate of Shabbat. Do not be the fool who throws gold on the altar of his own vanity. Do not be the idolater of your own ego. Destroy that idol today. Break the need for others' approval. Accept the fact that great men make great mistakes. The difference is that great men correct these mistakes in milliseconds, while failures spend their entire lives paying interest to hide their own flaws. From this exact moment, your new compass is cold. If a decision protects your vanity but destroys your cash, it is a mistake. If a decision hurts your pride but stops a financial bleed and protects your future, it is an absolute victory. I am not going to beg for your approval, for your like, or for your subscription. But if the raw, naked math we discussed today just shielded your wealth against a lethal mistake, leave your mark on this video. Subscribe to this channel only if you have the iron discipline necessary to continue this advanced training. And if you have made it this far attentive to the knowledge, scroll down to the comments and type just a single word: detachment. Only then will I know who are the few men and women truly ready to sit at the table and operate at the highest level. Protect the math. Ignore the ego. Move in silence and let the untouchable solidity of your wealth be the only answer the world needs to hear.